Hi, everyone. I'm Deanna Dobbin, and I am the main instructor in the financial management option for your second year. That means that you'll have me for a fair number of the courses that you do, although certainly not everything. I've decided to include videos in this presentation because you don't know who I am yet. You haven't had me for an instructor at all at this point. And I wanted to at least give you a little bit of an introduction to what I might be like in the classroom. Um, I've put the videos together with the presentation and they will run simultaneously. So there's nothing that you need to do. You just need to sit back and watch this as a movie. And my intention is that you will get some answers to some questions and get some clarification on what you'll be studying, what types of jobs you would be prepared for, and basically what you're getting yourself into if you take this option in your second year. If you take the intro to, I believe it's called Intro to Investment Management still, because this program used to be called Investment Management. We will probably get it changed to Intro to Financial Management soon for your third term course. If you choose to take that course next term, then you'll get some idea of what it would be like to be in my classroom. But it'll be online, so I suspect it'll be a little different than if I were in the classroom physically with you. But you'll get a little idea of what I'm all about. That choice is completely up to you. You don't have to choose the third term option in order to go into this option for second year. You'll see as I talk about the courses that you'll take why that's the case, how I approach the program. So without further ado, let's take a look at what you'll be studying. One of the biggest questions that I get asked by students who are thinking about taking the financial management program is, what are the kinds of things that I'm going to study? Now, the first video that I made for this was 15 minutes long, so I'm going to try and say a lot less, but still give the same information. Let's see how that goes. What I've got here on the slide is the courses that pertain specifically to the financial management program. So you'll take others along with all of the other people. There are courses that all three options take. These are just the ones that pertain only to financial management. So the first thing that I will say, and probably one of the most important things, so listen carefully, it doesn't matter what third term elective you take. If you don't take the Intro to Investment Management third term elective, it's okay, because I treat everybody that comes into the program in September as though they don't know anything. I've done that for years, and what I learn is that the people that took the Intro to Investment Management course in the third term, they might be a little more comfortable for a couple of weeks, but beyond that, everybody's on the same footing. So take the Intro to Investment Management if you want to know what this program is about, because we do a little bit of everything. And it doesn't matter for any of your options, whether you take the third term course for that option. Okay, so keeping that in mind, Intro to Financial Markets is a course where you learn about what the markets are, why they exist, how they work, the types of products that are sold, and why people care. That's only half of the first term, and then the final course on the list, Stock and Bond Portfolio Management, takes over the other half of the term. And we just get into more detail on, once we have a portfolio of stocks, how do we manage it, and the same thing for bonds. Professional Financial Planning is a course where we deal with everything that you need to know to develop a financial plan for a client, right from beginning to end. The financial planning process, stuff to do with their investments, their insurances, planning for retirement, planning for education savings, the whole thing. So that's a pretty big course, and there's a lot to it. Excuse me. Data Sources is a course that Adrian is now teaching. I've taught it for years. It's a course where you learn where to go to get the information on investments and how to present it to a client. Behavioral Finance, Adrian has taught. I'm now teaching it. That's a course that tells you about the psychological journey of the investor. What are mistakes that people make? And it's all about human nature and the types of things that we are sort of hardwired to do, mistakes that we make based on past and experience and whatnot, and how we can help our clients avoid that. So that's the term one courses. Term two, we do the industry courses. So you either do the Canadian Securities course or the investment funds course. If you do the investment funds course, it's smaller, so you'll also do another elective. I think customer service is what we're doing now. Very important. I wish everybody took it, but there's not time. So those industry courses prepare you to be registered to work in the industry. So they're something that sets this program apart from a lot of other things, because you come out of it with an industry certification, assuming that you pass. And we have a really good pass rate on that. Life insurance is something that Adrian teaches. Gives you just an introduction to different types of life insurance and who would want what and why would you recommend them. Sales, extremely important course, because really what you're doing as a financial advisor is relationship sales. It's about learning what your client needs, listening carefully, figuring out what their ultimate goals and objectives are, and how can you get them there. So that is sales. It doesn't seem like it is, but it is. And securities regulatory environment is about the rules and regulations in the industry. Then term three, applications in personal finance. That's a 3-week course where you prepare a financial plan for a living, breathing client. This year it'll be a little different because it's online, so I'll be doing probably more cases than actual clients, but we might still do some actual clients. But generally it's real living, breathing clients, and you put a plan together, present it to them, and you work all day, 3 weeks on that, and then present to the client and me at the end. And then you have your 5-week work term, which I will talk about when we go forward. Another big thing on students' minds is, when I finish this program, what kind of job will I be able to get? So I've listed several types of institutions on this slide. I'll just talk a little bit about what each one is. So banking and financial institutions is probably the biggest employer of students coming directly out of this program. You will be prepared to work in a financial advising capacity in any of these institutions. But when you work in banking or with a credit union, say, you're working on salary. And that's often the best place for you to start, especially when you're young coming out of this program. There's a saying in the financial services industry that gray hair helps, because people will trust someone with gray hair. People think someone with gray hair knows what they're talking about, whereas a young person might not. But if you're working for a bank or a credit union, you have the bank or the credit union behind you. So it's a great place to start. It's fantastic training. It's where I started my career. So I definitely recommend that as a first step. And a lot of students go out in those institutions. Most of the time, they will go out as a financial advisor trainee. Usually, starting salary is somewhere around 38 to 40,000, and then there's some bonuses on top of that, depending on how well you've met your targets. And then, obviously, where you go from there is up to you. Starting salaries, I think, are very similar for most for all these programs and most jobs coming out of these programs. So there's really not a very big difference there from program to program. In addition to those banking positions, you could go out working for a place that deals with financial planning and doesn't deal with all of the lending and mortgages, but that stuff's important, is really important actually. It's important to the whole financial picture, because most people can't afford to buy a house with cash. So a mortgage is a big part of a person's financial picture. So when I talk about financial planning institutions, I'm talking about places like Investors Group, or we could jump down to the insurance on the bottom of the list, and we could talk about Freedom 55 or Sun Life. All of them deal with investments and sometimes with some lending. Investors Group has lending. Sun Life and Freedom 55 deal with insurance as well as investments. So it's everything to do with the financial picture. Insurance isn't really dealt with in banking institutions. There's a rule in the Bank Act that doesn't allow life insurance to be dealt with in banking institutions unless we're dealing with life insurance that's attached to a lending product, which you'll learn all about. Excuse me. Then the third and fourth listings there are full service and discount brokerage. And here we're talking about a stockbroker. You're still a financial advisor as a stockbroker. The difference is that you deal with higher net worth clients, people who have more money to invest. You tend to deal only with their investments, not with their lending products. And you're on commission. So you make more money the more assets under management you have. So the more money your clients have invested, the more money you make. Again, I've got a number of grads who have gone off to do that. I've got grads working in every area in this list. The ones who have been successful in brokerage have started out either in brokerage in a different capacity, which I'll talk about in a minute, or started in banking and then made the move to brokerage after they had a little more experience and seasoning. Certainly, you can make a ton of money in brokerage. I never tell people to choose the program that they're going to take based on money, because you won't make a lot of money unless you're good at what you do, and you won't be good at what you do unless you like it. That's the bottom line. So when I talk about, I have a grad who graduated probably 17 years ago now, who's an extremely successful broker who makes easily 5 times the money that I make. $400,000, $500,000 a year, depending on the year. This year with coronavirus, probably not going to make so much because the markets are taking a bit of a hit. But yes, you can make a ton of money. You can make a ton of money working in the financial planning area as well, because you're also working on commission. But again, it's a matter of, yeah, you can make a ton of money, but there's a lot more risk involved. You may have months where you make nothing. So again, I really recommend starting out in banking and then making that bridge when you've got the experience. Now, you can start off in brokerage in an administrative capacity where you are an assistant to a broker. I've got a number of grads who have started in that manner. Some have stayed in that position. Some of them make very good money. Some of them make $80,000, $90,000 a year because they're working for more than one broker and their brokers pay them well. They're very important to those brokers because they're dealing with all the paperwork for all of the transactions that happen. They're the first line of contact for clients. They're organizing the broker's day. They're providing all the support the broker needs. It's a great way to learn that part of the industry. Now, full service brokerage is a little different than discount brokerage. I have had a few students who have gone to work in discount brokerage. Discount brokerage means that the person who is processing the transaction for the client says, I want to buy 100 shares of Organigram. The person who processes that transaction isn't giving them any advice. The client makes all of their own decisions on their own. There's nobody helping them. There's nobody to ask. I have a discount brokerage account because I kind of have some understanding of this stuff, so I don't always need a financial advisor to talk to, but I also have a financial advisor through a financial institution that I do talk to. Nobody should do their finances entirely on their own because sometimes you don't see your own things as clearly as someone else sees it. So it's always good to have that input. But discount brokerage still requires the same licensing as full service brokerage. So if you're going to be the one processing those transactions at a discount brokerage outfit, you still have to have the same licensing as the stockbroker who works at the full service brokerage. Okay, so those are just some broad areas of where people who have taken this program have ended up. Okay, so speaking of career paths and jobs, the Canadian Securities Institute has this really cool career map that I have to the right as I'm looking at this screen, but I guess it's to the left of me if I'm looking at you. That it gives you a really good description of all the different positions that are available in the industry and what parts of the industry they're in. So instead of having a link here where you could click on it, because I had to do this as a movie, I've given Adrian the address to go to online to find that career map. So I really encourage you to go to that address, take a look at the career map. And when you do, focus on the things that are in purple at the bottom of the circle, because those are all of the jobs that you would go out in or progress to. And when I say progress to, I'm referring to those like supervisory and management positions that you wouldn't start in, but you definitely could move to. So all of those positions are in banks and brokerage firms and to do with mutual funds. The ones that are in blue and yellow and green, well, the green ones we probably still could do here, but the blue and yellow are more head office type positions. So you would tend to be in Toronto or Montreal if you were doing some of those. Some of them you might do here, some of the compliance functions. But the ones to really focus on for entry level would be the ones in purple. So really, I recommend that you take a look at that if you have some interest, because it's a great little tool. To go along with our discussion of the different careers and what you're training for, I thought it would be great to look at where my grads have ended up over the years. So this slide has a lot of places on it. That's why I decided not to put my face on it. It's a little bit too much. But you notice here that I've got a bunch of banks listed. In addition to that, so you would see Scotiabank, but you also see Scotia Wealth Management. So Scotia Wealth Management is the brokerage side of Scotiabank. CIBC Wood Gundy is the brokerage side of CIBC. Nesbitt Burns is the brokerage side of the Bank of Montreal. RBC Dominion Securities is the brokerage side of the Royal Bank. So students have ended up at all of those banks and all of those brokerage firms. In addition, we have a company called Owens McFadgen. They deal with high net worth clients in the St. John and Moncton areas. I think they also have an office in Halifax and Toronto. Number of grads work in that office. And we also have grads with Anderson McTagg, which is a local insurance underwriter. So those grads are not working in the sale of insurance products. They're working in the underwriting of the insurance products. So determining how much do they charge for a certain type of insurance that's maybe not in the norm. This isn't an exhaustive list, but these are some of the larger employers. There are lots of people that are working for other smaller companies that I don't have listed here. Now, hearing what past grads have done and the places that you can go is probably great information, but I expect that you probably are also thinking, yeah, that's great, but are there jobs right now? And the answer is a resounding yes, there are. There are lots of positions. One of the things I would point out is during this whole shutdown due to COVID-19, banks still remain open because they're an essential service. People need access to their money. In fact, there are laws that require banks to be open the majority of the time. They can't be closed for, I believe it's more than 3 days at one time. So to that end, what I did was just did a search for job postings in financial services in the St. John area, just the St. John area. And I posted a picture of that search on this slide. What I would recommend that you do is, again, instead of having a link, because I had to make this a movie, I've given the link to Adrian. It is a very long address, but he's going to provide it to you with this video. So click on it and it will take you to that search, and you'll be able to scroll down through all of the positions that were listed today. And that changes all the time, but it gives you an idea of what is available. All right, final slide in the presentation, just a couple of additional things. We've already talked about the 5-week work term, so sometimes people have questions on that at this point in the presentation if I were actually in the room with you. So that's why it's here. The other things that, again, these are the same with any of the 3 options. The 2-for-2 university credit, we have a number of institutions that will accept the 2 years that you've done here at NBCC as 2 years toward your business degree. So Mount St. Vincent's is one of the big ones. Some of my grads have gone on to do that. UNBSJ with the applied management degree. I've got at least one grad that's done that, probably more if I think about it. And then I've had grads that have gone on to do their degrees elsewhere in Alberta and Connecticut and a bunch of different places like that. All of that to say that as long as you apply and you provide the information, they'll determine how many years credit you'll get. And in most cases, I think all cases, they've gotten at least 2 years worth of credit. So that's one thing. And then the other thing that I always say is that not everybody who takes this program ends up working in this industry. Some people go out and work in the industry for a while and they think it's great, and then after a while they decide they want to try something else. Some people never work in the industry because they decide by the end of the program that, yeah, I thought that's what I wanted to do, but actually I think I'm going to take my learning and move it into another direction. That's fine too. I mentioned teachers in bracket because as of last count, I think I have 6 graduates who have gone on to become teachers. I like to think that they enjoyed me so much that they decided that's what they wanted to do. Um, so all of that to say that you can use the foundation that you get in this program to go a lot of different places. My hope is that you'll love the industry as much as I do, and you'll want to work within it. But again, everybody's life path takes them in different places. So that's the end of my presentation. Again, if you have questions, send them to Adrian and he'll send them on to me. And I look forward to actually seeing you face to face in September. Ciao.